Welcome to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive. Okay, today we're jumping straight into the strategy, the big picture of global rugby's future. And we're using the insights from Springboks boss Rassie Erasmus as our guide. We're looking at the architecture of the game, specifically this huge debate around calendar alignment and, well, the feelings about losing those traditional international tours.
Yeah, it's a great lens because Rassie's operating on like two fronts, isn't he? You get the massive strategic puzzle of how the global game should look, and then the immediate job of winning the next match.
Yeah.
And our sources highlight two massive shifts coming.
Right.
First, this ongoing push, to get the Rugby Championship, the TRC played at the same time as the Six Nations up north. And second, this new Nations Championship thing that's about to completely change the international windows. It really feels like a crossroads moment for the sport.
Absolutely. Tradition versus, well, the future structure. So if you're as fascinated by the strategy and the deep thinking in rugby as we are, make sure you subscribe to Rugby Obsession. You won't want to miss these deep dives. Right, let's tackle that long-term vision first. Calendar alignment. Rassie was pretty blunt, wasn't he? Said it would be fantastic if the TRC could shift to that February-March window, same time as the Six Nations.
Yeah, no messing about there. And for anyone not totally obsessed with the schedule, that means moving it from, the current August-September slot, a huge shift.
But why? What's the core reason behind wanting that change?
Well, it's not just tidiness, is it? It's about fairness, about getting teams on an even footing, as he put it. He argues the current system means someone's always disadvantaged.
How so?
Think about it. Northern teams come south in July, often knackered after their long club season. Then the Southern teams go north in November, and they're the ones feeling flat after the TRC. It's this constant cycle.
Okay, so aligning them means everyone starts their big international blocks around the same time, maybe after a decent break. But hang on, wouldn't shifting the TRC just flip the problem? Wouldn't the Northern teams then be the tired ones come June or July?
That's a fair point. But Rassie seems to see a bigger benefit than just sort of physical freshness parity. It's about standardization across the board. Think about the laws of the game.
Oh, okay.
If all the big competitions kick off together, he says implementing law changes or variations becomes so much easier right across the board. You avoid that situation where half the world is playing under new rules while the other half isn't competing internationally for months. It's about having everyone on the same page, tactically and legally, at the same time.
That makes a lot of sense, actually, from an organizational view. But the reality on the ground looks messy. Sanzaar's already locked in its calendar through 2030, and it still has the TRC in that later slot. Officially, anyway.
Oh, it's more than messy, it's complicated. We need to walk through this. Because the TRC is actually getting paused completely in 2026.
Right, because of that big All Blacks tour to South Africa, rugby's greatest rivalry.
Exactly. That replaced the TRC that year. Then 2027, it all shifts earlier because of the World Cup in Australia. So the next couple of years are totally non-standard anyway.
Okay.
But the official plan, after all that, from 2028 is back to August-September, unless they finally agree on this alignment Rassie wants.
And the big unless seems to be one country, right? Sources suggest South Africa, Australia, Argentina, they're keen. But New Zealand isn't.
That's the sticking point, reportedly. New Zealand seems reluctant, and that's holding up the whole potential reform for the Southern Hemisphere aligning with the North.
Why, though? If it creates that even footing Rassie talks about, what's the strategic block from their side?
Well, it seems to boil down to their domestic game. Super Rugby Pacific runs slap bang in that February-March window, shifting the All Blacks' main international tournament, the TRC, into that period. It creates a massive clash.
Okay, commercials and eyeballs.
Yeah, it disrupts their established season, potentially impacts their broadcast deals for Super Rugby, which are really important to NZ Rugby's finances. It looks like a classic conflict. What might be best for the global structure versus what protects the national union's established income streams.
Wow, so one nation's domestic calendar is effectively dictating the international structure for the whole hemisphere.
Seems that way.
Right.
And while Rassie's pushing for that long-term alignment, everyone's also having to adapt right now to another huge change. The Nations Championship.
Okay, so let's get into that. Because even if the alignment vision makes strategic sense, this Nations Championship, it changes things dramatically starting next year. And it comes with its own costs.
Yeah, this is the other big piece. The Nations Championship kicks off soon, replacing those traditional, often standalone July and November tests. Think of it like a new structured league format happening every 2 years.
And the upside is meant to be money, more guaranteed clashes.
Basically, yeah. Guaranteed fixtures between the top teams every year, which means a more predictable, high-value product for broadcasters. It's designed to bring in more stable, centralized revenue for everyone involved, a big potential financial plus.
But Rassie, while acknowledging the practical side, if the numbers work, he also admitted feeling a personal loss, didn't he? Missing the old tours.
He did. And it wasn't just nostalgia. He really dug into why those old multi-test series were valuable from a coaching perspective.
What was his reasoning there?
He said it was always nice to play 2 or 3 test matches against a team. That extended contact, that series dynamic, it let coaches and players properly get to know them. You just don't get that from watching video alone.
He gave some examples, too, I remember. Compared it to old Super Rugby days.
Yeah, like profiling an opponent intensely for 3 weeks straight. He mentioned players like Ruben Love, the Hurricane center, saying he didn't really know him as a player just from footage. Same with understanding coaches like Paul O'Connell or Felix Jones properly until they came on those longer tours.
Right. It's about that deeper understanding you only get face-to-face week after week.
Exactly. He made the point that the beauty of tours is it's not just that you see the guys on Saturday morning, you play the game, you drink a quick beer, and the guys are gone. It's that sustained interaction, the tactical back and forth over several weeks. That's the bit they're losing with the Nations Championship format.
That feels like a significant loss for pure coaching and tactical development. Trading that deep dive for, guaranteed fixtures and revenue.
It's the trade-off and the direct result. Northern Hemisphere teams basically won't be doing those classic July series down south anymore, unless it's a World Cup year or a Lions Tour year. The whole rhythm changes.
Okay, just a reminder, you're listening to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive. If you appreciate getting this level of detail on the strategy behind the game, please do get subscribed now so you don't miss out.
So we've talked big picture strategy, structural changes, but Rassie also made it clear where his immediate focus has to be. Despite all the noise around that Rugby's Greatest Rivalry Tour announcement for 2026.
Yeah, the All Blacks series.
Right. He insisted the absolute priority is the upcoming November tour, a testing November, as he called it. You can't get distracted by things 2 years down the line.
And he's right to be focused, isn't he? Looking at the schedule, they still got 5 tests this year, including France and Ireland.
Exactly. France and Ireland are huge games away from home, plus 3 others that he specifically said can really cause problems. That's a brutal end to a long season.
Especially traveling north at that time of year, fatigue must be a massive factor.
Huge. You're tired, dealing with travel, playing teams often hitting their stride, and there's always pressure world rankings, setting down markers for the next year. It's a tough window.
On the plus side for the Bunks, though, we did see reports confirming they'll have their full squad available for November. Rassie managed to sort out the player release issues.
Yeah, that's a significant win before they even leave.
Yeah.
Finding a way around the World Rugby regulations to ensure full player availability. That's classic Rassie dealing with the practicalities, getting the details right.
And speaking of practicalities, he also had to address the naming of that future All Blacks tour, Rugby's Greatest Rivalry. Some people apparently called it arrogant.
He pushed back on that quite firmly, said focusing on 2026 now over the immediate tests, that would be arrogant.
Makes sense.
He basically said, look, the 2026 series is too far off for proper tactical planning. The only planning they can do now is operational. Where will we stay, player release logistics, way down the track, that sort of stuff. But the tactical focus, November, and the World Cup draw.
It really paints a picture of a coach juggling multiple timelines. The long-term strategic vision for alignment, the medium-term adaptation to the Nations Championship, and the absolute short-term need to prepare for the next game.
That's it exactly. High-level management in action.
So pulling this all together, what does it mean for you listening? We've seen Rassie's very pragmatic approach. He's trying to balance adapting to the future, like the Nations Championship, which brings financial stability, with pushing for what he sees as strategically better that global alignment with the Six Nations timing, even if it means compromises he might not personally like.
And these changes really do affect everything. How the season flows, even how coaches learn about their opponents now that those deep dive tours are largely gone. Which brings us to a question for you. Do you think the financial security and guaranteed games from the Nations Championship are worth losing those traditional multi-test series? Where do you fall on that trade-off? Let us know your thoughts in the comments.
And maybe one final thought to chew on, building on all this. We know the whole alignment debate seems stuck on New Zealand's position because of Super Rugby, but let's imagine. If New Zealand did agree tomorrow to shift the TRC to February-March, how quickly could the global game actually reach that even footing Rassie wants? Would it happen fast? Or would there still be years of sorting things out?
Definitely something to think about. Please subscribe to Rugby Obsession for all our latest deep dives into the strategy and the stories behind the game.
Thank you for listening to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive, and we will look forward to you listening to our next episode.